Hey, this episode's all about freezing CRFs and patience. In DataLabs. This is DataLabs Hot Tips. Now the time's going to come when your forms have been filled out, they've been checked by the data manager, gone through source data verification, ready for PI signature, and you don't want anyone messing with your forms. It's time to freeze. Now to be clear in DataLabs, when I say frozen, I mean a soft lock. That means if I really needed to, I could thaw or unfreeze. But we'll touch on that later. To see what this looks like in DataLabs, first we need to select the patient. From the patient view, I can actually freeze multiple forms, but I'd like to demonstrate freezing a single form, so I'll click on the demographic CRF. As you can see, this form has been filled out, it's been source data verified, and it's ready to freeze. From the Actions palette, I'll click Freeze CRF. And now the form is frozen, so I'll click Cancel to close it. Well, that was freezing one form, but what if we wanted to freeze multiple forms at the same time? Well, with DataLabs, you can do that too. Looking back from where we left off, we froze the demographics form in the screening visit 1. If we look at the frozen column, we can see that the demographics form has a green check mark to show it's frozen, while the other forms still have a red X. Now we could go in and freeze these one at a time just like we did, or we can do it the faster, easier way. Here at the patient view, in the Actions palette, we'll click Freeze CRFs. On the Freeze CRF screen, we see all of the CRFs that have not yet been frozen. You'll notice the demographics form we previously froze isn't listed. And if we want to freeze the rest of the forms in this visit, we can simply click the All button for Visit 1. Now, if I wanted to freeze any other individual forms at this time, I could do so by clicking on their respective checkbox. And if I wanted to freeze all of the forms at once, I could click the Select All button. But for now, I just want to freeze my Visit 1 forms. So I will click the All button for Visit 1. I'll scroll to the bottom of the screen and click Freeze. Out here on the patient view, you can see all of the forms now from Visit 1 that are frozen. But it's about to get colder. I mentioned a moment ago that if I wanted to, I could freeze all of my forms at the same time. From the patient level, on the Actions palette, I'll click Freeze CRFs again. But this time I'll click the Select All button, scroll down to the bottom, and click Freeze. You can see here that my frozen column has green check marks all the way down. But something else has happened as well. Because of all my forms being frozen, now my patient is frozen too. You can tell because he's holding a little snowball. A frozen patient in DataLabs is just a patient that's had all of their forms frozen. So if you were to thaw or unfreeze one of those forms, the entire patient would become thawed or unfrozen. Now, you can do it the other way around too. You can freeze a patient in DataLabs, and when you freeze the patient, it will then freeze all of their forms. Before we bring this hot tip to a close, let's talk about what we can and cannot do on a frozen form. Now, there's really only one thing that you can't do on a frozen form. You cannot check out a frozen form. Now, since you can't check it out, you can't really do anything that you can normally do on a checked out form, such as enter data. But this should be expected because forms are not typically frozen until the data is entered, submitted, and source data verified. But in the unlikely event that the data needs to be adjusted after the form has been frozen, you can thaw the form. But depending on your system permissions, you may have to contact your data manager. So good luck with that one. Now let's talk about what you can do, assuming you have the system permissions. You can set or clear review flags. You can request PI signature. You can perform e-signature. You can issue a DCF, although this feature can be turned off, so check with your DataLabs administrator. And finally, you can thaw a form, if, of course, you really, really need to. Now, I know it might be a little ironic that we're doing a DataLabs hot tip on freezing, But you know, I like to think that anytime you can learn something new, that's pretty cool. Thanks for watching DataLabs Hot Tip.